Welcome to the Mind Your Wedding Business podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Dennis. In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 30 years ago. Each week on this podcast, you'll hear thought-provoking and empowering interviews with wedding professionals who have found success in the industry. If you're a business-minded wedding pro who loves love, but also cares about their bottom line, buckle up and get ready to learn from a new industry expert each week. All right, folks, welcome to another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business. And I'm here today with Stephen Burchard. Did I say it right?
You did, yes.
Was that? Oh, I was close. All right, great. And he's Magical Memories Entertainment. So, Stephen, before we jump into a topic and what we're talking about today, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how we got you here today?
Sure. My name is Stephen Burchard. I own a company called Magical Memories Entertainment. We are what I like to call an entertainment concierge service. What that really means in practicality is we connect the right people with the right clients. So we're not really a one-fits-all kind of experience, but we are not also we do everything kind of experience. What our role is and our job is in the events and entertainment world is finding the right person and knowing our team well enough to know who is the right fit for the right client, and then translating our clients' visions into what they actually are in practice. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. And yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, and I'm excited to jump into this topic with you because we're talking about turning consultations into bookings, practical tips to increase client conversations. So wedding pros, Stephen, get inquiries, but many struggle to convert consultations into bookings. So why is there a gap between getting the inquiries and converting those into bookings?
I mean, there's a couple different things that I have a team that works with us as well as our sales team, and what I tell them all the time is it's a couple factors to it. The first thing is one, understanding a client's vision, and that's kind of like our fundamental idea is understanding what their expectations are, what they want, how they see the event going, their feelings. So really listening to start is the number one thing that I always say. Start by listening, start with understanding, trying your best to get to that. And then the second part to that is being able to kind of reflect that back. It's not about creating something new, and it's not about changing things necessarily, more about really trying to sit there and hear what the client is thinking and seeing, and then more so even understanding where their fears are and where their concerns are. Because at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing in the wedding world or the events world, it's really trying to solve a problem or solve a dilemma, a problem. I don't want to say problem, but that's kind of what it is. They have a concern. Yeah, they have a concern. They have a thing that they want, and they're coming to you because you've already solved part of the problem by saying, "Hey, I do the thing," and they believe you enough to give you a call. So you're talking about consultations to bookings. They gave you a call, so they already know, hey, they're mostly there, and now you really just need to reflect back what they're looking for. And really, the biggest part that I teach my team is understanding what that is first. Because when you understand it and you really try, and I think a lot of things happen is you have something like DJ, photographer, caricaturist, tropical birds. These are all things that we do, and like everybody comes to you and you understand these things, and now you're like, okay, well, I do these things. Here's what I do, and here's why I do it, right? But that's not really what they're asking you.
Yeah.
They really want to know, here's what I'm thinking. Can you understand that, and then tell me how that fits what I'm thinking? And I think that's really the biggest thing.
I love it. All right. So we're going through the consultation process. What do the couples really want to feel during that consultation before they're ready to say yes? Is there some signs that they get or some kind of, I don't know, emotion or whatever, where they're like, I'm ready to book?
Well, of course. I mean, I think making a connection is important. But I really think, like I said before, being heard is the number one thing. And they'll guide you through that process. And it sounds so simple. But I think somebody told me this a long time ago. I was in a wedding venue that I worked with a lot, and the owner of the venue said to me, he's like, "Listen, we have 2 ears and one mouth. Just listen twice as much as you speak." And I've tried my best to live by that theory, because if you're in an environment and you're talking to somebody, if you listen to what they're saying and twice as much as you speak and twice as much as you talk, you're gonna get exactly what they
Mhm.
want and learn. And so if we're talking about sales wise, you're gonna learn how to sell to them. You're gonna learn what they want and how they want it, and the words that you need to use are exactly what they said. Reflect it back to them, and not for nothing, I am a very, very firm believer in two things: not overselling and not misconnecting or not having the right alignment. Be
Mhm.
honest with yourself in that situation as well. Don't go out there and sell a client on something that you can't deliver. Don't go out there and oversell a client on something that you're not going to deliver, or you don't feel like it's a fair compensation for the work you're going to put in. It's really important that you're meeting the right expectation, but you first, like I said, going back to listening, you have to learn what the expectation is, and then you have to reflect it back, and then you have to deliver on it. And then when you deliver on it, you'll get hired again by somebody else. So it's a cycle.
I love it. So it's funny. I think a lot of us wedding professionals struggle with we do talk too much, and we're and we get, and then I feel like we are not good at that empty void. Like when there's
Mhm.
we got to fill the empty void, so to speak, during those processes. So yeah, that was some great advice. So during the consultation process, what are some big mistakes that like you think wedding pros make that are costing them maybe some bookings?
I think the talking factor is the number one thing. I've given advice to friends of mine who are in the weddings industry. It's the curse of knowledge. I think is a big part of this.
Mhm.
Is you know what something is, you know how something goes, you know what the best option is in a certain scenario, and you're just trying to brain dump on these people who have no idea anything about anything. And the
Mhm.
second part in that same kind of thought process is based on the fact that you already know, you're assuming that they kind of know already too. Or you just don't realize that they don't know what you're talking about. So trying to really walk them through the process of from inception to execution and how that's gonna feel and experience. And the biggest thing that no matter what you're doing in the wedding industry. We do, like I said, we do a lot of different things across the spectrum from, walk around magicians to aerialists, all that stuff, right? How do for us,
Mhm.
it's even more so the case because when a client comes to us, they're not coming to us just for a photographer, a DJ, whatever. No one
Mhm.
service usually. Why are they coming to us? They're coming to us with a large scope of vision, usually. So for us, we have
Mhm.
to really translate what that vision is. And when I sit down with a client, I know a lot of a lot. I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't even know all the things I know because it's just so ingrained in who I am and how I do things. So when I sit down, I can just keep going and be like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I feel like that's kind of what happens a lot is that you assume that they just know what you kind of do innately. And that's the hardest thing is to get
Yeah.
over that and learn that you need to not talk down to them like they don't know anything, but talk to them as if they are somebody that's brand new to this because they are usually.
Yeah, and I think a lot of wedding professionals will start using acronyms or just different like slang that we
Mhm.
use, and then it goes right over the couple's head, and then they're looking at them like they have like you're just at that point become like Charlie Brown's teacher, want want want. You're just noise to them because
Yep.
they're not able to follow what you're doing. Yeah, so I think that has a lot to do with it. So, all right, so I think so a lot of couples want to have like trust and confidence in the person that they're going to hire to do their wedding. So how does educating couples during the consultation process increase that trust and confidence?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it is about actually kind of giving them the education, teaching them the what you do and why you do it and how you do it, but going in depth into what's important to them. That's the reality of it. Is I feel like a lot of wedding professionals speak to what they think is important, and it may actually be the most important thing in the event. But if a client doesn't think it is important, it isn't important. And it's that I don't know if that
Mhm.
resonates with a lot of people because they said, well, it's the first look is the most important thing for a photographer. Let's just say, right? That's the most important
Yeah,
thing. I'm
yeah,
telling
yeah.
you it is. But
Mhm.
is it the most important thing to that client? Because maybe
Yeah.
the one shot that they have during the first dance is the most important thing. And if that's the case, forget about talking about the first look. Even if they mentioned it, even if it's something that they talked about, forget about it. Don't focus on it. If you're talking about how to get that client to be interested in booking with you have to understand what's important to them. And then, yeah, you want to educate them on process. And, when you're going through it, you want to kind of make sure that's there, but don't focus on it. Focus on the thing that means that something to that person. Because at the end of the day, everything we do is based on how we perceive it. And if you look at life, if you go around, you're going to your favorite department store. I mean, if those things exist anymore, your favorite store in general, and
Yeah.
you go into that store, you listen in. If you feel like this is the place you want to be, it's because they're selling to you. The music that's out there, the way the colors are, the things are. Those are all minute little things, but they're speaking to you as the buyer, and we still have to do that same thing. You focusing on bringing a certain level of focusing on what's important to that person is key in order to deliver and to be able to really have them convert. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about sales here. Converting is the end goal. That's the whole point of this, right? So
Yeah.
we're going from that to
Yeah.
the end point. How do you get there? Listen, understand, and focus on what they think is important, not what you think is important.
Yeah, and I think that's some great advice right there. So, all right. So I've been setting up events, and you'll hear like some of these venue coordinators they come across like or the sales reps for some of these venues will come across a little salesy, little used car salesman-ish, So how does one go through the process of the consultation to make it effective without sounding scripted or salesy, when they're going through it?
I think the biggest thing is mirroring. That was something I was taught a long time ago. I actually went to
Oh,
school
okay.
for marketing. Is mirroring. You're sitting there, you're talking to a client, and if you mirror back what they're saying to you. So I really, let's talk about the venue aspect of it. I really, I'm looking for a venue where and I think it's the key part of mirroring here is not mirroring the things necessarily, food or the view, or not necessarily like that specifically, but the emotional part of it is the key here. Is speaking to,
Okay.
I really want my photos to I really want photos that I'll remember forever. For example, let's say, right? And like, okay, well, that's a connection, that's a piece that's not, it's tangible to a sense, but it's not as physical of a thing. So if you can mirror back what their the emotional aspect of it is, that's something that you can kind of play into more so, and then you're no longer comparing which view is better, which sample is better. The thing is not going to be as direct comparison. So if you can play into that
Mhm.
making the person feel, oh, this really feels right, the right place. As I said a couple of seconds ago, it's perception. Your perception is your reality. That's how we all live our lives. It's not about the
Yeah.
reality that's out there. It's really
Yeah.
what we perceive it to be, which is what we act upon. That's the classic what's it called, the observer theory, right? The ability that people see things and you can't, when
Yeah.
you're sitting there, you're looking at it, right? You're not, you don't know if it's real, or what actually happened, I guess is the thing is, you don't realize what actually happened there in that situation because what you saw was completely different from what really happened. The idea that you watched a person that watched a car accident, asking them what happened in that car accident. You're like, well, this, that, and this happened. And then you
Yeah.
watch a video of it and totally different. So that's, I think, the kind of the reality here.
Yeah, I love it, and it's funny you say that someone can watch the video and still have different viewpoints of how that whole thing went down. So, all right,
Mhm.
so we're in the consultation phase. Are there like certain questions pros should like ask to uncover what truly matters for the couple, or is there any like advice you can give when it comes to questions? Because I feel like sometimes that's where
Mhm.
the pros we just get into that diatribe and we just start talking, 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 but we're not asking the right questions to get to everything that you've just been trying to teach us here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the number one thing that I go by is, how do you envision this day going? How do you see your wedding day going? How do you see whatever experience you're getting going or doing?
Mm,
If you can really just ask them to translate their vision, and some people don't know, and then you have to kind of walk them through that process to start them. Giving them examples. Do you see, walking out and this being a thing, or do you see it like this? Do you see it like that? How do you? Because that's gonna, as a professional, I mean, I'm also, I mean, I might be a little bit biased. So I'm a very visual person. I can conceptualize things and visualize things and have that kind of thing. So for me, it helps me to understand what they're doing in that way. So for them, I think really trying to get to understanding and visualizing that is the most important piece of this. Is then it, because that allows them to really be able to articulate the end result, which is what we're selling to, is the end result. At the end of the day, we're selling that end result. We're not selling the process. The process, in all
mm,
reality, doesn't necessarily matter. As a DJ, doesn't matter what speakers you have. Doesn't matter which controller you have. Doesn't
no,
matter which lights you have.
nope.
No, no, none of
Yeah.
that matters. All that matters is how
Mm-mm.
that client feels at the end of, like I said, feels at the end of the day. It has nothing to do with how we got to that end result. All that matters is we got there and they got that feeling that they wanted. And to me, what's most important is what we promised. Because they might be happy as a clam, but if we under delivered, we didn't give them like the extra thing that we said we would, that's not fair and that's not right. But if you're, as long as you're delivering on what you promised, the method in which you got there doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's funny, back in the day, I mean, I'm old, so I've been around a long time, but back in the day, we would get clients through going to bridal fairs, and
Hmm.
so and at the bridal fairs, you would see like DJs have all their equipment and lighting all set up there, and it's like, are they selling the equipment or are they selling themselves? And the same could
Yeah.
be said, even I would see videographers set up all their cameras and have all their equipment out for everyone to see, and I feel like the client
Hmm.
has no idea, if this is even quality equipment or what it, they're buying the person more than they're buying the equipment, kind of thing. So
Hmm.
it was
100%.
some good advice I got at one of the wedding MBAs a long time ago, is exactly
Hmm.
what you were saying, is, getting to the emotion side of it as well. So without making the sales consultation process feel overwhelming or like pressuring clients, like how can we guide them through the consultation without making them feel overwhelmed or making them feel like we're pressuring them into a sale?
I think if you treat it as a conversation, I think that's the thing
Okay.
I've learned about this, is that it's not a sales pitch, especially in the wedding market. You're not selling as much as you are creating a relationship. And I think the majority of vendors out there are smaller operations. They don't necessarily have a huge team of salespeople, and that's probably more in the entertainment world. DJs and photographers and things like that. They're not huge studios, huge companies. There are some out there. Don't get me wrong, but the majority aren't.
Hmm.
So as a individual sitting there with a client, how do you close that deal? Is really to treat them as a friend. You're giving them advice as if they're
Okay.
your friend. You're giving them insight as if they're your friend. And if you think of it that way, is not a, I'm trying to sell you on this idea, and you need to do this, you need to buy this, you need to do this, right? And this is why, and this is what you're right, this is what it is, right? Instead of doing it that way, if you approach it as, hey, you know what? Tell me what you're thinking, and let me figure out, based on my experience, what I think might be the best fit, what I think would might that give you the best results based on what you told me. And you know what? Get it this way, do it this way. Most people that have done this event have done it better, or this is the way they've, not better, better's the wrong word. They've done what you're looking for, your
For
vision.
success.
Yeah, and they've given a better experience this way, and you've had a better opportunity this way. So guiding them with, I mean, coming from compassion, or coming from the perspective of giving and trying to help them versus sell them, I think will drive to that end result for a booking easier. Because at the end of the day, that's what people are looking for. They don't know, and I keep saying it. You gotta remember, these people have never gotten married before. Even if they have gotten married once before, twice, let's say they got 5 times before. That's only 5 times. You've done this hundreds of times.
They still don't know. They still don't know what they're doing at 5 times.
They don't. I mean, what is it? You
No,
couldn't have done
you're
it
right.
every
You're
year.
right.
So
Yeah. No. No, it's so true, so true. And it just and it's almost like we're educating them through and just helping them learn, what they need and all that. So good
Mhm.
ideas. All right. So we're in the midst of the consultation here, and
Mhm.
what's the best way to handle like hesitation or objections as we're going through the consultation?
Well, hesitations aren't necessarily a bad thing. We talked about filling the dead
Okay.
space. I think that's a thing. I mean, if you mean like where somebody pauses and stops, I think people get scared of that. That tends to be an area where you say something, you offer a price, you offer a service, you offer something, you present an idea with the hope of an immediate reaction. It's the most scariest thing as a salesperson. You're like, it's going to be X dollars, or here's the package, and this is what you deliver the number, you deliver the hardest part, and they stop and they don't answer, or they don't give you an immediate response. You're like, I mean, it's gonna be 20% off.
And the dead
You know,
air. Yeah.
yes, wait. It's so painful, but wait. Give them a chance to digest that information. Because the reality of it is you're giving them such a big thing. And I mean, it's like they're buying, sometimes they're putting a down payment on a car. That amount of money, it is a large sum of money, no
Mhm.
matter which
Mhm.
industry you're in, no matter what it is. I mean, I got married last year, and I've been in this business for 20 years. I got married last year, and I realized I've never booked a venue. So when I had to book my venue, that was a painful process. And it's interesting because that's like crap. That's like putting a down payment on a house. It's a lot of money. So you
Yeah,
sit there
yeah,
and give them a chance to
yeah.
digest it and understand it, and then come from that perspective of compassion, and I'd say, does this fulfill your needs? Does this make how does this fit what you're looking for, what you envision it to be? And they can say, you know what, I'm gonna have to come back to this, or let me think about it. But when they say, let me think about it, they're there's something that they have to think about. So that's the next kind of step to that. How do you deal with objections? This is a silent objection, really. When they say, "Oh, let me think about it," like,
Mhm.
I got to talk to my fiance about it. Oh, I have to talk to my mom about it. What? What do you have to talk to them about? Can I understand what you're going through? What are you thinking about this? How does it? Why? What? Not necessarily why. Why might be is the wrong word, but more like, let me understand, because they might turn to you and be like, you know what? It's really kind of too expensive. But I guarantee every vendor out there has alternative options. You have other things that you can say,
Mhm.
"Well, you're looking for that? Well, why don't we, the what's it called, the caterer, be like, you know what? Let's cut out one of the cocktail hour things.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's minimize that. Let's remove this. Let's change it a little bit." Or your photographer, you wanted us in there 5 hours early so we could do a first look at this and that and the other thing. Why don't we cut that back? Why don't we trim this down? Why don't we create something that
Yeah.
better aligns with not only your vision, but what your financial vision is? Because there's kind of two different elements to that.
Yeah.
People have this perspective. I want this grandiose thing, and they might not be able to afford it. That's a real thing. That's a reality of life. But does not mean that they can't find a middle ground. I mean, what my business really focuses on is connecting the right person to the right experience. So for us, it really is about understanding their
Yeah.
vision, trying to find the best fit. But fit, when we talk about fit for our clients, it's not just the experience, it's also the financial end of it. And those two marry together to really find the right fit. And like I said, you have to also be honest with yourself. When you hear this person give you their scenario, their situation, their whatever, okay, if you're not the right fit, be honest with them about it. Don't try to sell them on something that might not be the right fit for them. And even better than that is if you grow your network in the wedding industry and say, you know what, I'm not necessarily the right fit for this, but my friend has a photography company and she's able to do that. Or, this DJ over here, he's a sole prop. He does it on his own, and he has more of a modest opportunity, setup that might fit better for what you're looking for. That's not really what we do. So, but the biggest thing with this is when you're giving to others, and especially in our industry and what we do, you're giving to others when you're willing to spread and connect people with the right fit. Those people will turn around and do the same to you, because everybody has their specialty, everybody has their niche,
Mm,
everybody knows the right thing for them, and if you can really find that person and connect that person to the right opportunity, not even just that vendor will remember it. Here's the big thing that I think is that client will remember it too. So when their cousin's getting married and they're like, hey, I'm really looking for this higher level experience, oh, well, my DJ was great, but he was more modest. But I did meet with this other guy and he told me to go there. You should talk to him because you were honest with them. You gave them
yeah.
what you can deliver, what you should deliver, and then helped them to find the right fit. And I know this is not closing your own deals, but it gives you more deals in the future. And I think coming from a place of education and giving and willingness to realize that not everybody's competition. Not everybody around you is going to be taking from you. I'm a full believer in the rising tides raises all boats. This classic cliche line. It's true though. If we all
Hmm.
grow together, if we all put
Yeah.
in the effort together, we'll all raise together. And they're better vendors than others. So if you're guiding people to the right vendors, then the good vendors will rise up.
Yeah, I agree. Not every wedding is for every event. Like you can't
Mhm.
do every wedding out there, and not every client is right for you. So I think that's where some wedding professionals get stuck, is that they're trying to book every client that comes to them, but not every client that comes to them it might not be the right fit for them as well.
Mhm.
So all right, so we've been talking about hesitations, objections. Let's go the total opposite direction here. What are like some signals that tell you, hey, this consultation is going pretty well?
I mean, classic lines. I mean, I think of a consultation as kind of like a first date. You're looking at it; it's uncomfortable at
Oh,
certain times.
okay.
You're going through this process. You're getting to. Think about it this way: it's like a first date in the sense of you're getting to know them. You have some uncomfortable, weird moments.
Mhm.
You say things that are kind of awkward at certain points, and then who picks up the check? Now, I mean, that part doesn't necessarily matter. They're always picking up the check. It's in the sense of it is a little bit like a first date. So you got to kind of go through that, but read those social cues, read those signals where somebody says, they're happy. They're what you're saying resonates with them. And this goes back to the listening thing is if you're talking too much, you're giving them the opportunity to give you the response to what you're saying. You're not able to feel what you're not able to understand or to recognize that they're interested. So I think that's a big thing is really just sitting there and giving them the space to respond, and then pick up those social cues, pick up on those. Oh, I'm really happy with that. I like that. Because that'll give you the barometer of it. And if you're saying something and you just keep talking and talking and talking, you'll never ever ever realize they're ready to buy.
Mm, I love it. All right. So we've done the consultation. They're going to think about it, and you didn't book the deal. And
Hmm.
so, what are some like follow up habits that we need to do to like turn into a signed contract? Like, are there any tips with the follow ups?
I mean, I don't know if this is a popular opinion. I've always had the opinion since I started my company. You follow up until they say no. I am
Yeah,
I chase every lead down. I follow up, relentlessly, especially nowadays because there is so much going on that people may or may not be in the mental headspace to make a decision at the moment, or they may have to make a decision about the florist and not the DJ, and they may not be ready for it, or they may think, hey, I just got engaged, I'm ready to go, I'm going to do all this, and all of a sudden it hits them, and they're like, I just can't figure this out, and they just check out. So I think a lot of people don't do the follow up, and that's the biggest part of it. And follow up in the sense of multi-stream follow up. That's the key here. Is it's not
hmm
just call, it's not just email, it's not just text. It's a mix of all of them, because everybody communicates differently. Some people like to pick up the phone.
hmm
Some people will never pick up the phone. Some people like text messaging. Some people
hmm
feel invasive, being like your space is being invaded when you get text messages. So it's understanding what their best medium in which they want to communicate is. And that could be a conversation you have during the consultation. Hey, can I follow up with you next week? What's the best way? Do you get a phone call, text message, email? What's the best way for you? But understanding that and
Hmm.
being proactive and asking that about the follow up, if they're gonna leave, if they're gonna walk out of there, and you haven't gotten that yes yet, understanding the next steps. What are the next steps? Oftentimes we don't close our deals on the first phone call. We don't close our deals on that consultation just because it's, there are a lot of options, a lot of things. So it's, they have to think about it. But I always end it with a kind of a summary of what we've discussed. So if I want to understand this correctly,
Oh,
this is
okay.
what, we've talked about. A lot of what we do is a full spectrum. So we start off, we kind of have three pillars. You have your music, your photo and video, and then what we call wow factor. So three pillars of what we offer as a company. So I always kind of go through, okay, here are all our sound options, here are all our photography and videography, and here's all the add-ons, whether it's a photo booth, whatever, all the extra stuff. So when we go through it at the end of that conversation, before we send them, a formal proposal and everything or whatever, even if we discuss pricing and figure it all out, I always say, I just want to understand that we're on the same page right now. This is what we discussed, and here's why, and here's how it fulfills. Back to what we talked about a minute ago. Here's fulfills what your emotional piece that you told me is, and then here's the next thing, and here's why it fulfills what your what's important to you. What you've said is important to you. This is why it does it. Da 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 da. I'm going to take this. I'm going to put it all together in a bundle for you, and I'm going to send you that. And what I also like to do is I personally like to send social proof as well. So whether it's videos, photos, testimonials, we do video testimonials, but even if you have like
Yeah.
stuff on the Knot or Wedding Wire or, Google, Yelp, whatever it might be, if you can get those social proof to add in there, said, I'll send you something from a bride that had a similar kind of experience, that helps.
Yeah. It makes a difference. All right. All right, Stephen, as we're wrapping up, if listeners could remember one thing about turning, consultations into bookings, what should that be? The one thing.
Uh, Going back to what I believe is the truest statement, you have to listen more than you speak. That's the number one thing. If you're in a consultation, if you're working with a client, the number one thing is sit there, listen, truly listen, not just sit there and let them speak, but truly try and understand what they're saying and
Mm,
understand the vision, understand their pain points, understand their goals, and truly sit there and listen and understand, because they'll tell you everything that you need to know in order to mirror it back and give them exactly what they want. 'Cause at the end of the day, it's all we care about. We're not in this business because it's, the easiest business. We're not in this business because it
no.
necessarily makes the most amount of money. We're in this business because most of us really care about making these once in a lifetime experiences for our brides and our couples.
Yeah.
Our number one goal is really because we want to bring that joy and be a part of that moment. So remember that as you go through this process, and work through that with them to get to that end goal. You
Yeah.
have to make the
You
effort.
do.
And a lot of people don't. A lot of people sit there and either send them information and call it a day. And a lot of people just, go into a consultation and just tell them what they should have, they need to have. But you have to make the effort from day one. When they come into you, understand whether it's the channel in which they're communicating with you, understand and listen to how they're communicating and telling you what their pain points are, what their needs are. Just because you're on a budget doesn't mean you can't afford it. Everybody has a budget.
Yeah.
It just,
Ever.
which
Yep.
level of budget are you? So budget's not the scary word, but understanding that helps you to understand where they fall on
Hmm.
the spectrum to help you to understand what you can offer them. So I think that's the biggest thing, is listening. Is the number one thing
Yeah.
I always say is listen, understand, and then repeat back.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add a 1B in there as follow up until you
They say
finally hear
yes.
from them. Like
Yeah.
follow that lead. I think Stephen, you gave that advice earlier, and it was such great advice. It's just like you got to follow up, follow up, follow up. So I think listening is 1A, and maybe follow up is 1B in there as well. So all right,
Yes.
Stephen, where can listeners connect with you, learn a little bit more about your work?
So we are Magical Memories Entertainment. We are the Magical Memories Weddings is our wedding specific site, but we also have mme123.com as our general entertainment, general events site. So we are on all the social medias, all the platforms with Magical Memories Entertainment.
All right, perfect. And folks, we'll connect as many of his links and everything in the show notes, as well as the email blast that goes out. If you've not signed up for that email blast, make sure that you do, because that's where you get all the extra little nuggets and stuff as well. So, Stephen, we can't thank you enough for being here today. I really appreciate your time and your expertise, and hopefully everyone will listen more when they get out there and they're doing their next consultation. So I appreciate your time. Folks, that'll be it for this episode of Mind Your Wedding Business. We'll see you again next time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Mind Your Wedding Business, brought to you by Wedding IQ. If you've got a topic you'd love to hear us cover, or if there's an area of your business you're struggling with, let us know and we'd be happy to help. Don't forget to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're a fan, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and left a review. It helps more wedding pros find us and learn more from our guests too. Thanks again for listening to Mind Your Wedding Business. We'll catch you next time.